All right, guys, this week we're here at Winthrop, Thursday before the start of the event, and I got my brother. We're gonna run through Winthrop Gold. We're gonna do a practice round, and he's gonna follow me along, throw some shots. He's trying to qualify on Monday, so we're gonna formulate a game plan for him, while also getting some practice in, so enjoy.
Let's go.
All right, hole one, we don't have tee signs, but I'm gonna say it's 282 feet is my guess. Totally a guess, but it plays downhill, and we got a little bit of a log, and we also have a low ceiling, so it can be a little bit of a slightly intimidating gap right off the bat, especially hole one of the final major of the year. But I like to go with kind of a softer plastic harp, because a lot of times once you clear this log, it wants to skip and filter long. So the softer plastic is going to make sure that it stops. I overturned it a little bit, but should be, yeah, it's past the log, probably about 25, 30. But yeah, once you go past that log with any sort of speed, it's going to want to like carry. That's a little short, so that just, if that clears it by a foot, it's going to skip to it, but also if I clear it by too much, it's going to want to skip and filter long. So
I go with my judges here, my most reliable straight disc.
There you go. See, like, that's a good shot. It's just going to go
deep.
Super long.
Yeah.
See how it skips and
yeah.
filters?
Yeah.
All right, I got to show you guys something pretty funny. So I said 282, and I've never seen the distance, and I've never paid attention to it. 283, 1 foot off. I guess that's because I've played this hole like for the last like 14 years. So this log, the second one, I hit the top of it, and if you hit this, you're stuck at probably 60 feet. And as you can see, my brother's second one just kind of went long, which is okay, but you're 60 feet the other way long. So very tricky shot. This log makes it to where you can't just slide up to the basket. You have to have a good speed control shot. So we got to my drive a little bit short, didn't quite get the skip that I wanted, but still got a nice 30 footer, something like that. But yeah, this hole is all about the distance control. Getting over that log, but still short of the basket is a tricky thing, just because it's everything, especially with the wet grass a little bit earlier in the morning, everything wants to skip like my brother's. My brother probably hit pin high and skipped all the way to 70, 80 feet long. So you gotta kind of just throw a nice smooth shot with a little bit of touch on it, and how you can do that is just kind of slow your body down, go a nice slow run up. That way your disc is still traveling, but it's going kind of slower, because you're slowing your tempo of your body and your run up down.
Nope.
He's a dagger putter, of course. He puts with daggers. Give it to him. Oh, almost cashed the circle too. But yeah, he's got some camo daggers. That's his go-to. I got him on the good putters, of course. Yeah, that's hole one. Like I said, a pretty solid par 3. You got a lot of variables with the log and the kind of side slope. It's a good hole. Good way to start. All right, hole 2, we got 409 foot par 3 uphill. Real distance, since I like to give you the real distance since it's playing uphill, it's probably about 430, 420, 430, because you got the uphill grade. It's going to make it play a little bit longer. All right, so this hole, you have the most high percentage gap is probably going to be this left to right, kind of up the middle. I'm going to go with the general first. Just kind of throw it, this is a nice flex shot. This can be a tricky tee shot, but you have to control the height, because once you get about 300 out there, the height gets a little bit of a low ceiling, so a lot of people throw nose up and hit those limbs. So you got to kind of keep it low, but you're also going uphill. So a lot going on with the height and the nose angle of your disc here. So just try to throw a general, just smooth it. I could throw an Explorer. That's going to be a little bit low. Really good line. It left at about 40 feet or something like that. So I like that. It's a little bit higher, tiny bit higher. There we go. I like that a lot more. So that should get up there. Yeah, that's money. So that should be about 25, 30. It's more right than you think. So hit the gap with like this angle, and you're going to want to hyzer around this fat tree.
Okay.
It's like, that's really what you want to think about. It's almost more of a turnover than a straight shot.
Okay.
There you go. That's a lot better. Even a little bit more turn, but that should be, should be close. Yeah, that was a good shot. But yeah, just keeping it turned, because it's uphill and everything's going to want to fade and back to the left. You know?
Yeah.
So if I go up there and just miss my angle a little bit to the left, it's going to be a lot to the left, because it's so far nose up.
Okay.
So my first general that I threw was a little bit low. Totally fine. It's a chance at a birdie. Easy par. Just threw it too low. Like I said, those limbs force you. Now that I know they're there, it forces you to go a little bit lower than you want. And then the Explorer made the adjustment and got myself a 25, 30 footer. And then Zach's adjustment up there is about the same, 30 footer.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely. This hole is all about figuring out the nose angle and kind of learning how the discs are flying once they get up, you know, nose up, kind of up here towards the basket. So yeah, kind of threw one of my Tour Series Explorers on that second shot to make the adjustment. All right, Zach, see what you got. Show him the first birdie.
All right.
First Zach Wysocki birdie on the channel. That's what we do, boy. Heck
Oh,
yeah.
snuck another one in there too.
You're gonna be a circle 2 bandit too, huh?
There you go.
Let's go. All right, we got hole 3. We got a new tee pad. It's a new look, kind of through the gap. Same OB configuration, same green. It just allows you to throw more of a direct hyzer flip to kind of late turn. You want to be a little bit near that left-hand side OB on the shot to where you can have a good shot into the green. If you're too far to the right of this OB line that kind of comes in, you just have no angle. So you want to be like 450, 500 out there, and that's going to be just in the out of bounds, not quite enough turn. I'm gonna throw one more, just kind of make the adjustment, and turn this one a little bit more. There we go, that one's way better. So that's gonna be towards the OB line, but have a good angle in, just on the edge of the OB. So that's kind of the ideal spot. You wanna be just like 20 feet right. That first one was a little bit too aggressive, and that should have a wide open look into the green.
And I'm just playing this one for par, and no, there's no chance I can birdie it, so I'm just gonna try to get something, stay safe, not even mess with the OB.
There you go, good shot. Yeah, that's good. That's real good. You can maybe get up and down from there. So you can see how close my shot is to the out of bounds. As you guys know, I don't normally like to throw it close to the OB, but in order to get an angle around this Mando, you want to be as far left as you can, but it's kind of a double-edged sword because the OB's over there. So this is pretty much absolutely picture perfect. And now I got to kind of throw like a skip shot around the corner. This is a really hard par 4. Not going to be a lot of birdies, but if you can birdie it maybe 1 round out of the 4, you're going to be gaining strokes on almost the entire field. So yeah, that's kind of the game plan here. Try to ride it close to this OB and give yourself an angle. If you're too far right, you just have no angle into the green. There you go. That's all you need. So yeah, he just pitches it. He's just pitching it wide left and then taking that open up shot. I'm getting a little bit more aggressive. I'm going to try to skip one into, you know, 30 to 40 feet from this distance, and this angle is probably is almost as good as you can really do. So that's really good. Okay. So yeah, that's in that bush. Totally fine with that. That's about 40 feet, 30 feet in that bush. 100% fine with being right there. Yeah, it's in the bush, but I still have a putt at it. That one's gonna be good if it gets a good skip too. Okay, I got a dud skip, but still all right. Yeah, as you can see, the shot is, I threw it pretty much as good as you can possibly throw it, and still a super chopped off angle. So yeah, if you're not in position perfectly, you're just literally laying up for par, and that's a good score on this hole.
Oh, a little deep. A little deep.
40-foot kind of bush putt. Not that bad. Just because of how tricky this hole is. This is a very tricky shot. A kind of awkward putt, but at least you're putting for birdie. Just throwing it right into the limbs and bouncing in. But yeah, you kind of have to cut this bush close. And if you, like I said, if you land in it, you're totally fine. You're straddle putting, have a chance for birdie. Any look for birdie inside 40, 50 feet on this hole is a good shot. And that means more than likely you're gonna have a birdie chance and still get a par if you don't birdie. All right, we got hole 4. I'm guessing the distance here is gonna be about 328 feet. And we got up through a straight gap. We got Mando on the left-hand side. So it really forces you to throw a dead straight shot. There's no getting around it. There's no finding your own route. You gotta throw a nice clean shot through the gap. And this is the kind of hole that, you know, if you don't hit the gap, you're definitely scrambling. So just missed the gap by a foot or so, but even that's just an easy par. I mean, this hole is hit the gap or die. A little bit under turn that time, so I got an overturn and under turn, but I mean, even those are just, they're pars. You want to get a birdie look, but it can be tricky to hit the gap for sure on this hole. But yeah, this hole is just, it's so tight, and
yeah,
and you can definitely hit the gap and get the birdie. It's definitely, you're gaining a stroke on most of the field if you do birdie it for sure. That's gonna get through.
much.
The good thing is, instead of bouncing off the fairway and being in the trees, you're in, pretty much the wide open. So this hole doesn't have as much teeth for the simple fact that if you go off the fairway, it's pretty much just, as you can see, a wide open, easy par. And so you're not really gonna get a bogey if you're, there you go, if you're off the mark. So there's not too much teeth in the simple fact of, the pars aren't super hard if you do mess up the shot, which a lot of people will, just because of how narrow the gap is. So we'll just kind of pick up. We both threw a forehand approach to the basket and got up and down for the par. But yeah, you just want to try to give yourself at least a look on that hole. Whoops, wrong disc. There you go. But it can be tough. As you saw, the gap's tough, very tight. So it's not the end of the world if you don't hit the gap. Obviously, you want to get a good result on that hole. As you guys hear me talk about results a lot, that's a hole you want to hit the gap, and if you don't hit the gap, you're not getting through. It's not really a luck-based hole. It's all skill. But even the best players in the world, you're not going to hit that gap. You play that hole 4 times, I doubt anybody in the entire world is going to hit that gap every single time. It's just so tight. Yeah. But if you can hit it 2 or 3 times out of 4 and get those birdie putts, that's good. That's kind of how you kind of dissect a hole, is how are you going to play it for 4 rounds, not just arguing how you play it for 1 round if throwing a miracle shot. That's not very consistent. That's not how to score at a high level during a major, just by gauging how to throw a hole for one time through. You got to say, hey, if I play this hole 4 times, what's my highest percentage to get a birdie and to keep my tournament alive and give myself a chance to win? So I was kind of telling him there's a way to attack this hole. This obviously a par 5 with water everywhere. You obviously can play this hole aggressively by still playing to the safe side of the fairways. You don't want to be, if you're anywhere within 10 or 20 feet of the lake, it's a bad shot. You don't want to be anywhere near the lake to give yourself any sort of chance to go in the water. You're basically cutting this fairway in half, and you want to be on the right half of the fairway. And if you're not, it's a bad shot. Even if you're not in the water, you don't want to be on that left half. It's basically, that's out of bounds. It gives yourself a lot more leeway, especially mentally. We got hole 5. We've got probably like 11 or 1,200 foot par 5. We got water in play potentially on every shot. And how I can counter that, for me, I'm going to go forehand off the tee with a nice smooth general, and I'm just going to keep my disc on hyzer the entire way. If I keep my disc kind of starting at that bush line on that straight ahead bush and then hyzering right, I just keep my disc hyzer. If I know if I turn it over, then that's when I bring the water into play. But if I keep it on hyzer the entire way, the water is not in play at all. So that's kind of my one mental note right now. So I threw it right at the bush, hyzered. That's a little bit wider than I want, but it's totally fine. I'm gonna throw one more, and I'm gonna start it a little bit more to the right, so that way I'm not anywhere near the water. There we go, that one's way better. So that's much better. It's gonna hyzer. That thing's 70 feet away from the water. The water's not even in play. So that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw a general, just with a little bit of angle, just so I know it's gonna come out of it.
Flex it.
Flex it right at that bush. Nope.
Okay, here, I want to show you. So when you're throwing this one, so like whenever you throw bad forehands and they hyzer out, you come here and then you basically like start with your wrist going forward like this. But if you do this and then lead with your elbow,
yeah,
it creates that kind of whip coming through.
Okay.
So this is when you throw bad ones, you do this and then it just kind of falls out of your hand because you're not leading with your elbow and then whipping it like that. It just kind of does this and then falls out and hyzers out.
Yeah.
Here, start here, lead with the elbow and snap through.
Okay.
So when you get to this point, you're here and you're boom, snap. But you want to snap kind of like on a hyzer, like that, so that way you're not going into the water.
Okay.
So yeah, snap your wrist, your elbow on the angle you want to throw. So if you want to throw a hyzer, you snap it like that. Flex shot, you're going to snap your elbow, throw your elbow like that,
yeah,
and then your arm is going to follow whatever angle your elbow tells it to. There you go. That's a better line. So yeah, it's basically, you see what I'm saying though?
Yeah, no, I do.
Like, instead of just coming up here to this position and then throwing your wrist like this, you come to this position and then lead with your elbow and it creates that whip.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So like that's how I know exactly what's gonna happen. I'm gonna come here, elbow, arm. You see how my elbow kind of released first and then I got that snap like that?
Yeah.
That's how you can basically control the angle. And whatever angle your elbow's going forward is where the angle of the disc is gonna go on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna kind of show Zach from where his lie is. He landed here. And so if I'm like dissecting this lie, for him, Zach's game, he's really good at like kind of turning over like a mid-range or something. So That's kind of the play that I would recommend for him from the spot like this. You kind of want to use this bush to your advantage. You want to go over top of this bushy tree and then turn. And you want to make sure you're turning at the end of the flight. So you know, hey, if I'm turning at the end of the flight, the water's not in play at all. As soon as I start throwing it too hyzery and miss my angle, it's going to go right in the water. So if I start on Annie over this bush, it's going to drift into that, because it's a side slope here on the right-hand side as well. You can kind of tell it goes to the water. So if you're going Annie into the hill, it's just going to kill the speed and spin. So keeping my Annie the entire way throughout the swing. No chance that thing's going in the water.
Yeah.
Because it's on Annie the entire way. You see at the end?
Yeah.
But at the end of the flight, it doesn't matter what your disc does in the beginning. You got to control the disc at the very end of the flight. So that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Is making sure that your disc is never on hyzer at all, ever.
Okay.
Yep, that's perfect. Very good. Yep. See how it's never hyzered?
Yeah.
It's on the safe side the whole time.
Yeah.
That's a great shot.
Okay.
Didn't bring in the water at all. So now you know, hey, if I land in this spot or anywhere similar to this spot, you can kind of use that, bank that knowledge in that muscle memory of that shot.
Yeah.
We got to my drive, forehand, and I'm going to go with a forehand on the second shot as well, just because I know I can fade into this hill. You see this hill is going this way, so how I can counter that for me is throw the high percentage shot and throw my forehand that's going to hit into the hill and just kind of kill the speed. So I know if I throw it on, keep it on hyzer the whole way, it's going to hyzer away from the water at the end of its flight. Just like that. Zero chance that's ever going in the water. It's wide to the right, totally fine with that. I got about 350, 400 feet away from the pin. Obviously, the farther you go right, the longer shot is into the pin, but that's okay. Sometimes on this hole, when it's the left pin close to the water, I'm just literally playing for par, because you have to throw such an aggressive shot on the third shot that it brings in big numbers, and you can. But also, that's how you have to be aggressive if you want to win as well. So yeah, just kind of making the game time decision based on where the pin's at, where you're at sitting in the tournament, do you have a chance to win, all those different factors. And for Zach, he's playing on Monday, so he's not trying to shoot 10, 12 under. He's trying to shoot, you know, a handful under just to qualify and make the tournament. So totally different game plan for Zach on Monday versus, let's say, in the tournament, or me on round one trying to get a lot of birdies to set myself up to win the tournament. So here's Zach's second shot. Now he's throwing his third shot over the water. So what I'm going to tell him is kind of throw a shot starting at that red tent and with something kind of understable and just drifting it to the right. I would say a driver.
Driver?
Yep. There's no reason to throw a fairway because the water is short. Okay. Nothing but open space and air on the right, on the long side. So if anything, you can go 50 or 100 feet long rather than going 20 feet short in the water.
Okay.
So you're just like that shot. It's a one angle shot. You're throwing your disc, trusting your disc, and you're turning it the entire way. You're never hyzering out. If you hyzer out too much, it's a bad shot. Okay. Keep it, trust your angle at that tent, keep it on Annie, and you're trying to throw it 40, 50 long. You're not trying to park. I mean, if you park it, that's great, but you're trying to throw anything short's a bad shot.
I feel more comfortable throwing this bare. So
Yeah, I mean, you're in an awkward line too. That tree's kind of in the way. Just move it forward a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Oh. Yeah, that's fine. Just play it from there. Just because it doesn't affect your run up as much. Yeah, you just gotta throw it out and then turn.
Okay.
All right, so for Zach, he didn't quite trust his disc. Obviously the water's there, and just kind of turned it too much instead of throwing it out and then turning, which is a lot easier said than done when you got water short. But for me, I'm throwing a completely different shot. I'm gonna throw it nice high and wide, left of that red tent. And my thing is I'm throwing it nice and high, so that way I'm going over the water and not bringing the water into play at all. If I throw it low, that means the water's gonna be in play. But if I throw it nice and high like that, there's 0% chance that's ever going in the water, because it's over high the whole time and spiking down. No chance that's going in the water. So that's kind of how I mitigate the water, is by the height of the shot, and knowing if I throw it nice and high and hard, I know it's just going to come spiking down and take the water completely out of play. So that's kind of the adjustment Zach needs to make. He needs to throw it out and trust his disc's going to turn on the backhand and throw it higher. So yeah, this is kind of the pin. Normally the pin's way more left, but they moved it because the hurricane made this the lake come way up. So this basket's way more friendly pin location than it normally is. But still good to get some reps and practice putts on there. But what I'm trying to get Zach to do is throw his shot way over here and kind of land in this kind of 30 to 40 feet long region, because as you see, short, OB, long, there's no danger. And so it's just all about controlling the height and controlling the angle of your disc to get that glide into this kind of sweet spot. You completely bring the water out of play on the first shot, second shot, and the third shot. And you know, that's what the best players do. They're so dialed that there's water, there's hazards, but they find ways to control and manipulate the disc to fly at the most high percentage shot on some of the most challenging holes like this hole. All right, we got hole 6. We got probably like a 330, 40 foot shot in that range. It's normally on the beach. The basket you see is not the actual basket we're gonna be playing in the tournament. I'm gonna throw a shot. My goal is to try and throw it about 20 to 30 feet left of the pin that we have now. We do have the limbs short that kind of come down, so it forces you to kind of either throw under them straight at it or kind of wide a little bit higher. You can have a little bit more distance to go up around the limbs if you go further to the right. So I'm just kind of trying to throw a line drive, you know, 5-10 feet off the ground right at the basket and then start fading right before the basket. So that looks really good. That's pretty much exactly what I'm trying to do. Yeah, it's gonna be close to the water, but it should be, you know, pretty fine. I'm gonna throw a similar shot on this one, just maybe try to get a little bit more glide before I start hyzering. So that one was just a little bit wide. It's gonna park that, but that's not a good shot at all. Just pulled it a little bit wide. It's probably gonna be OB in the tournament. So Zach, I would try to just throw kind of at that basket first and then make the adjustment from there.
Okay.
Almost like you're parking that and then, yeah. Oh, you throw the white Explorer too?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, you just don't want to throw too much hyzer, Zach, and skip.
Okay.
So controlling your angle, landing flat with a touch of hyzer instead of like a ton, you know, not a bunch of hyzer, because that's gonna make it skip.
Okay.
It's all right. At least you're on the safe side. I mean, now you can make the adjustment on this one.
Yeah.
There you go, that's money.
Whoa.
That's a good shot though still. Not in the water, you should be safe all day. So yeah, that's kind of the what I'm trying to get Zach to do is throw that like that. That shot looks a little bit too far right, but he's just kind of taking the water out of play and then he's getting the action late in the flight. As opposed to cutting it off early, skipping and hyzer and going straight OB. He's trying to control the angle and the width of how wide his disc is to try and keep it on the inbounds part of the fairway as long as possible. And that's something that's super important, especially on a hole like this, because as soon as you lose your disc left and it starts hyzering, you're skipping and you're gone right in the water. Automatic drop zone, who knows, you might take a 4 or 5 or 6. Because if you, this drop zone is like a 50-foot death putt, and if you go OB, you're re-putting without gaining any distance. So that's how USDGC is. If you mess up one shot by a couple feet, that could be your tournament could literally be over before you blink your eyes, and it's just that quick. And so that's what makes this not just this hole, but this whole course so daunting. And like my first one is money, which is what I kind of thought it was. As you can see, all this mulch, you can kind of use this to your advantage. If you hit this mulch, it's going to get another 20 or 30 foot skip, versus if this is grass, you're going to just kind of stop and not get a skip. So you can definitely rely on this mulch to kind of boost you to circle's edge, which is a good shot on this hole. And as you can see, that's the basket. They're going to fix the green and everything for the tournament. But then you have the drop zone back here, which is at this whisker here. And you know, this is definitely a putt that I like to practice. Not that I want to ever plan on going there, but it's good to kind of get some feel, so that way if you do happen to pull a drive OB, you can come to the drop zone and feel comfortable that you can save a par. And that's how a lot of these holes are. You want to go to the drop zone, get a feel for it, feel for how far the distance is, what disc you're going to throw. And then if you're not scrambling in the middle of a Monday qualifying or in the middle of the tournament to guess what disc you're going to throw, you can refer back and say, all right, I'm going to throw this disc on this line, and I know exactly what I want to do. So yeah, that's the drop zone. But if you miss that putt and go in the water, it's an automatic re-putt. So this hole has got a lot of variables going on, no doubt about that. But they got the basket here just until they fix the green. So that's hole 6. All right, we got hole 7, the bamboo hole. It's definitely one of the coolest par 3s on tour for sure. But we got not the distance on this hole that makes it super challenging. It's more of the visual, the fact that you have to hit the gap. Otherwise, you're going to another drop zone like we talked about in the last hole. So for me, I'm going to throw kind of, and we are normally teeing off from an uphill tee pad here, which is going to definitely make a difference on how the disc comes out of your hand. You're going to have to throw more down as opposed to this one, you're flat, so you're gonna wanna throw a little bit more up. So it definitely changes the nose angle from on top of this deck versus down here. But for now, I'm just gonna throw like a smooth harp. I'm gonna start it on the left-hand side and kind of drift it in with a little bit of an understable harp shot. So I turned that a little bit too much, so it's just gonna hit the boards and stop, which is okay. This one, I didn't quite trust that disc enough. So this time I'm gonna trust it a little bit more, just like that. And that should be much better. So yeah, just kind of take your flippy to understable putter. Zach, that's what I'd recommend. Just kind of start at the left side of the corner of the bamboo with a little bit of turn and kind of turn it into the gap.
Okay.
That's kind of what I'm thinking about. Better. You just want to start it. You need to just start it more left and kind of trust that it's going to turn. So yeah, basically the left side of the bamboo, like pick a side over there and try and keep the angle and Annie. So you know, hey, if I throw it that side, it's gonna drift to the middle of the gap. Whereas right now you're starting it in the middle of the gap and then it's just turning into the right side of the bamboo. Okay. So start on the left side with kind of a flippy straight putter and turn it into the middle.
Same thing.
Yeah, you're just not starting it enough over to the left.
Yeah.
The key to this hole, like the first shot that I threw, is you can't miss by a lot. If you hit it, you're still like that red one, I can still get a birdie. So it's all about just missing by that little bit. If you miss by a lot, you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna completely miss it and you're going to some drop zone where you have to throw some forehand roller or something weird. So making sure that you're not off by a ton and you're able to still hit this bamboo, like this first one here that I have, like I'm still able to putt. I can very easily make this. So I'm not even disappointed with this at all. This is not a shot that I would be too upset about in the tournament. So yeah, making sure because you have the right side, you got like 5 to 10 feet of bamboo on each side, so you got a lot of room for error, unless you completely airball the bamboo. So that's the trick to the trade on this one. All right, we got hole 8. It's a 697 foot par for. Got kind of 2 gaps. Zach's going to show you the right side gap down this right hand side, I would imagine. Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm going to go the forehand gap kind of at this kind of leaning tree that you can see out there. Trying to land kind of just past the people where they're walking right now, and that sets you up for kind of a second shot forehand. So for me, I'm going to go forehand. Zach's probably going to go backhand and then forehand into the green. I'll show you how hole 8 looks. So yeah, for me, like I said earlier, I'm going to try to aim at that leaning tree. That's kind of a good reference point to start my disc. Start it on at that line with a little bit of hyzer, just like that, and it should skip kind of into that sweet spot where I'm wanting to land. Yeah. And even a little bit further to the right is better. I'm gonna throw one more. And this one I'm just gonna throw a little higher. As you guys know, the higher you throw it, the more time it has to turn and go to the right. Just like that. That got, you know, that 10 feet higher. And it's gonna have that more room to go right. And I kind of like being a little bit on that right-hand side. It kind of opens up the second shot gap to make it a little bit of more of a higher percentage shot into the green. So Zach's gonna show you the straight shot here. He's gonna throw a Prince.
Yeah, kind of aiming at this middle, which is a little Annie. Throw a little flex and try to end up in the middle. Give myself a forehand approach.
Yeah, that's cash. That's a really good shot. Nice shot, dude.
Thanks.
So that's pretty much right where my forehands are landing. So it's pretty much the same spot. We're both getting to that same sweet spot, just kind of different ways of doing it, which is kind of how this hole is. It has the double fairways that allows you to kind of pick your shot shape that you like. He feels more comfortable with the backhand. I feel more comfortable with the forehand. So just whatever gets you to that landing zone, that's the most important part. And this one, a little bit, like I said, a little bit on that right-hand side kind of opens up that gap. So that's why Zach throwing this backhand is kind of a good thing for that second shot angle. It opens it up a little bit. All right, so Zach's got his shot here. And for me, if I'm throwing this shot here, I'm looking at the tree on the left-hand side. And I'm basically using that as a reference. A lot of people would look at this shot and just throw right to the gap over here. But if you notice, there's a huge slope. So a lot of people do that and they'll hit the slope and just stop and completely kill your shot. Versus if you kind of almost aim at that left side tree, you have more flat space, more height variation that you can hit. And so that left tree, if you aim at that, you just have a lot more open air space as opposed to this slope on the right-hand side. So that's kind of what I would say, Zach, is try to aim at that tree on that left-hand side and just, you know, almost like a couple feet to the right of it.
Okay.
That's your spot, and you're trying to hit in those wood chips and skip to the right.
Yeah.
And like, try to use that elbow thing. Fire that elbow on the angle you want.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
See, that all that happened there was you just threw your, so like you just did this and then you threw your wrist like this over there and then your elbow. So instead of going elbow, boom.
Okay.
Try again. Try the Raptor I arrived. Just keep it on hyzer.
Okay.
Yep. And snap your elbow. Just think about throwing your arm and elbow and then wrist, snapping through. Yeah, so much better. Way better. Yep. I mean, it's just a par, but it's fine.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get a bogey like that first one.
Yeah.
Just that same shot right at that tree and just try to skip pretty far to the right. That's exactly what I want. So that should be real good. I wanna almost go even a little bit wider, a little bit more left on this one. Too high. So that was just too high. I got super lucky to get through, but I missed the height, threw it right into those limbs. But yeah, as you can see, I want to throw a lot more left than what it looks like. You want to go left because the open airspace is left, and then you want to skip and go right at the end of the flight, not the beginning. As soon as you start going right early, you're going to run into the hill, you're going to run into the bushes, trees, all that stuff over there. So you want to go forward and then fade late. And how you can control that is controlling the flex out of your hand and making sure it flexes, and then with an overstable disc, and then late skips at about 300, 350, not early. I'll throw the slammer, just because it's not, when you're this short, you don't want to throw like a mid-range. There you go, perfect. See how it just sits soft and you know that culprit might want to skip.
Yeah.
It's fine when you're further away, but when you're short like this, you're literally don't have much distance to go. The slammer doesn't have any glide, and so you can utilize that to your advantage.
Yeah.
Because you throw it pretty nice and smooth, and it's just gonna die.
Yeah.
Whereas that culprit's gonna want to skip, and it's got more speed, all that.
Okay.
All right, so here's my two shots. My first one's parked, and my second one that I threw a little bit too high is still pretty much 20, 25 footer. But I like to practice kind of these uphill putts here on this basket, because a lot of times what happens is you throw a shot kind of by where my blue one landed, and then they end up getting up on edge and rolling over here, and you got to end up hitting a 40, 30 footer uphill like this to get the birdie. So yeah, first one kind of just came in early before this tree and got skipped. And I'm just throwing in forces on that shot. Just a nice smooth enforcer shot. Give myself that look. I'm totally fine with being 25, 30 feet down the hill, putting uphill. Giving myself that high percentage birdie look on hole 8. All right, we got hole 9. We got a couple different tree configurations this year. We got 2 on each side. Normally it blocks the hyzer, or normally the hyzer is an open shot. This year we have 2 trees on each side, so you can't really throw a hyzer. And you also have trees down at about 300 feet down the fairway. So if you pull your drive a little bit to the right, it's gonna hit those and drop. So we got a lot of different variables with the tree configuration this year. Changes the hole completely because your straight shot is a little bit different of a distance control shot versus a hyzer. So it's a little bit harder to control the distance on a straight shot. So I'm gonna take a couple shots. First time throwing this new configuration of trees. So let's see how we go. As you can see, these trees force you to go up the gut. And that really makes a big difference when you're throwing a mid-range up the gut or fairway as opposed to throwing wide on the distance control shot. So 350, anything it has a little bit more room on the left-hand side. As I talked about, those trees are on the right. You don't want to mess with those much at all. So we'll kind of see how that shot is. Probably gonna be a little short maybe if I'm guessing. Okay, so I got a little bit lucky and just skipped barely over the rocks. That wasn't ideal. I want to throw a little bit higher. So we're gonna do that on this one, a little bit higher. There we go, that's way better. Oh, it looks like actually I'm hitting right at the trees that I was talking about. So that one was a better shot, just a worse result, but a better shot, better line. There you go,
a little
good shot.
Short.
Yeah, you wanna be a little bit higher. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw a little bit higher on this one, just so I can give my mid-range a little bit of time to fly before it hits the ground. There we go, that's way better. We'll see on the distance on that, looks like it may be a little short, but we'll see, probably catch the left side. Yeah, so that's safe, barely. Wow, every one of my shots is like hitting that rock, barely safe.
The OB line isn't even the rock either, it's in front of that.
Yeah, no, yeah, and on top of that, if you go long past those rocks too far, it's gonna wanna skip OB long and hit, and then you're going to a drop zone. That straight shot forces you to throw a much more controlled angle with a mid-range or a fairway drive or something like that. And so yeah, big difference. And even these trees on the right-hand side, if you turn it a little bit, you're gonna start heading towards it and you have a chance to hit them and dropping OB.
Yeah.
So a lot more challenging of a shot just with that simple configuration of the trees off the tee. So here's the first mid-range shot. Landed just kind of 20 feet short, pretty high percentage putt. But yeah, this is I think it's a much better hole now with the forcing players to go straight. You gotta really shape a shot to get up there. All right, thanks for watching the front nine with my brother Zach. We saw a couple different changes out on the front nine here at Winthrop. Now let's check out the back nine.